Sorry about that. I got kicked off there for a second. Well, good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Clermont County Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you to our first government affairs event this year. I'm excited to be with all of you this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew McAfee, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs here at the Clermont Chamber. We're so grateful this morning for the support of our sustaining sponsors, American Modern, Park National Bank, University of Cincinnati Claremont College, Duke Energy, Mercy Health, Health Source of Ohio, Park National Bank, Center Bank, Grant Career Center, Great Oaks Career Campuses, Shakely, Spectrum, Sporty's Pilot Shop, Republic Bank, Millicron, Fairfax Credit Union, TQL, Nestle Purina, and Ace Hardware, Anytime Fitness, and Papa John's. And co-hosting with me today is Mark Ramito, Director of External Affairs at AT&T Ohio. We're very fortunate to have AT&T Ohio as a sponsor of our government affairs programming here at the Chamber, and I'm so thankful Mark could join us today. The mission here at the Chamber is simple: to transform Clermont County to one of the world's preferred places to locate, operate, and grow a thriving business. In order to achieve this, we must establish and maintain solid relationships with our elected officials, especially in Columbus. Without the help of these partners, we wouldn't be able to cultivate the environment that brings people to Clermont County to live, work, and play. This morning, we are very thankful to be joined by the three members of the General Assembly that represent Clermont County: Representative Gene Schmidt, Representative Adam Byrd, and Senator Terry Johnson. The program this morning is pretty simple. Each guest will provide a recap of their accomplishments in the first half of the 134th session of the General Assembly and what they hope to accomplish in the second half. After each guest has spoken, we will wrap up with a few questions submitted by our members. If any of you there tuning in have some questions, you can throw them in the chat box and we will try to get to them as time permits. I'll also post the contact information for our three guests in the chat section for those of you that have additional or follow-up questions. So with that, we're going to kick things off with Representative Byrd. Take it away.
Andrew, it's great to be with you this morning, and thank you for what you do, and thank you for what the Chamber does. And so, I know I speak on behalf of all of us representing you here, that we are very interested in working as a team in order to bring good things to Clermont County. And so just to kind of bring it back to where you wanted me to go, some of the things that I've been able to be a part of over the last year is a couple of bills that have passed out. A couple of them have been signed by the governor now, and one was to bring testing relief to schools. And they needed that last year in the midst of the pandemic and the lack of ability to be in school. And so many students were having, all over the state of Ohio, had very different educational environments. And so it really wasn't fair to test them the way we had been in many years previous. We also had a bill last year that was an appropriations bill that took American Rescue Funds and appropriated it to schools, educational service centers, career technical schools, and then Ohio National Guard. And then recently I've had a bill that's passed out on Underground Railroad Month. And I think this is really important due to Clermont County's role in the Underground Railroad. We have a rich history, and we have many people in our county who maybe live in homes or are related to former members of the railroad, Underground Railroad. And so, our abolition is past, and our belief in freedom and helping those who are freedom seekers get north is a very important part of our past. And we want to celebrate that. And also, I think, is a good tourism event for our county. And we've got many tourism sites in our county that can be celebrated. As far as the future, we're running out of time, aren't we? And we only have about 11 months left to get it done. And so I'm working on a Parkinson's registry bill that would help scientists and researchers when it comes to Parkinson's learn more about it. I am also working on a State Board of Education bill that would reconstitute how it is and make it an all-elected board. I'm working on a bill that teen drinking and it would give prosecutors more discretion in going after parents who put teenagers in compromising situations in alcohol. And so another one that is very important for Clermont County, of course, is Village Disillusion. bill, and it's very important that we bring clarity in how to dissolve a village. And then I'm also working on a couple of teacher licensure bills. And as you probably know, we have a problem in all kinds of fields when it comes to attracting talent and attracting a workforce, and that includes teachers. And so we're trying to attract more teachers to the profession by a couple of the bills that I'm working on right now. And that's just a couple. There's a lot more in the hopper. And you know, I tell you what, when you talk about constituent services, I think it's important that one of the most important constituent services that we as representatives of Clermont County provide is bill ideas. And when someone from back home brings a bill idea to me, and I'm sure to my colleagues, we are more than happy to take that forward if at all possible. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And you know, open to questions now or at the end or whenever you want me to.
Thank you, Representative Byrd. Representative Schmidt.
Morning, everyone. It is so nice to be here. I think my opening statement is 2 days in a row, we've had the same exact traffic problem on 275 with Rex. And I know that there is talk in the future with the transportation budget to really seriously look at that interchange, that overpass on 275 as it approaches the Loveland exit. And after being stuck in traffic 2 days in a row, that will be a priority for me. But let's go back to this past 13 months. The first thing that I was proud to help accomplish was the budget. Our operating budget, we balanced on time. We lowered taxes for across the board for Ohioans, and I personally removed unnecessary fees that hurt our farmers in particular. The second is my breast cancer bill, which passed overwhelmingly in the House and is working its way through the Senate. If I have a crystal ball, I think we're going to get that realized by Easter, and that will make us probably the most proactive in breast cancer detection in the country. I'm working on my stroke registry bill. It is important that we use all the advanced methods possible when we deal with strokes in Ohio. It is one of the largest killers for men and women. Number 4, criminal justice issues. A couple of the issues that I'm working on, one is a voyeurism bill, and this is a constituent issue where a constituent was at a Target and being filmed while she was getting undressed. And in Ohio, we have a law that says unless the camera is facing down, it doesn't count as voyeurism, so I'm working on that. I just heard my proponent testimony in the Senate, and Terry Johnson was wonderful with my little McKenna's Law, which is a water park bill. The water fountains that come up from underneath, we do not have any restrictions or regulations on the amount of pressure that is produced. Only Florida does, and it really harmed little McKenna, and we're working to get that resolved. I'm right now drafting an eminent domain issue that will really help all of us, including farmers, and just came to my attention that an individual wants us to look at reducing property taxes for seniors, talking with a colleague in the Senate on his bill and seeing if I can partner with him on that. I could talk more, but the most important thing on the plate for all of us is the capital budget. As you know, the capital budget utilizes funds that go to certain projects, and my priority projects are the women's shelter for women abused and battered women, the Clermont County parks with the Grailville property on Route 48, and of course the Boy Scouts, which have an issue with water runoff damage, and it is critical with the 6,000 Boy Scouts that annually visit that project. There are many more in there that we are fighting for, but those are my main ones. And I will turn it over now to Terry Johnson.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you. I'm sitting here today with our senior legislative aide, Tara Marasco. Very important for my constituents to know who she is. We have Zach DeCamp out in the front office. He can't come in because he has to man the phones and make sure that ninjas don't come in and carry me off or something. I don't know, but he's out there manning his post. But these two are your key to accessing state government issues, whatever you need in our local district. And just wanted to make sure you got to see Tara today. Over the past year, I've been privileged to sit on the health committee, and a wide variety of things that come through that committee. And I'm one of 2 positions in the Senate, and happy to bring my perspective of 30 years of medical practice to that. And so many health issues have crossed our committee, and many have been enacted into law. Also, I'm on the Veterans Committee. I'm the vice chair of the Veterans Committee, and doing my best to make sure our veterans are taken care of. Ohio has a huge veterans population, and we're very proud of them and the service they've performed. And also the connections we have to our active duty and reserve and National Guard folks. That all comes to that committee also. So I've been very involved with that. I always have to write this down because it's a confusing title for me. I'm also on the state government budget committee, and that's one that does redistricting and things like that. So you can imagine. I chair the Workforce and Higher Education Committee, and that is really coming home to issues that are near and dear to chambers throughout Ohio, and especially Clermont County workforce. And over the last year, I've been a strong voice in the Senate for responding differently to the pandemic than we did. I really was a strong voice for not closing quote unquote non-essential businesses and doing things differently, keeping us open, keeping us thriving. Legislatively, I was honored to be on Senate Bill 22 with Senator McCauley. We were both representatives at one time. Senator McCauley, which brought the legislature to an even footing with the governor's office regarding actions and mandates and things like that. And it was a signal change, a seminal moment in the way our response as a state has been to the pandemic. So proud to do that, and was all geared toward keeping businesses open, keeping families fed and thriving in Ohio, and at the same time being safe and smart, because that component has to be there also. Looking forward, I have a constitutional carry bill that is being considered in the House, and I hope it will be favorably disposed over there. I'm a huge Second Amendment proponent. I don't take the word freedom lightly. As people that are here in the legislature, we're all charged with a lot of things, and one of them is defending the Constitution. We swear to it, and we're in a position to actually make changes to restore things that have been taken away from us. And so constitutional carry is something that can be safely done, smartly done, and it's hugely supported by people all throughout our state. I'd really like to also say that I look forward to continue to work with Representative Byrd, Representative Schmidt. They are strong advocates for Clermont County and bring a wealth of personal experience, and Jean, especially with their legislative experience and having been connected to the federal government as a congresswoman. Adam, great friend, we talk all the time, and just to let you know that we're working together for Clermont County.
Excellent. Yeah, we're very fortunate to have you three fighting for us up in Columbus. Representative Byrd, I know you have a hard stop at 11, so I kind of want to start our questions with you, and Representative Schmidt, you can kind of chime in here because I know you two are working on this together. You mentioned the village of Amelia dissolution and working on some legislation to kind of combat that, because that was kind of unique for that situation in that the village was actually sitting in 2 townships, and how you can actually appropriately dissolve that, separating the property and everything. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like and what your legislation would address?
Yes, and so the issue here is very complicated, and I think as I have dived into this more and more, that realization of the uniqueness of this situation. The complexity of this situation has really borne out through the process of meeting with different interested parties, working together with Representative Schmidt. And so, you know, it's become very clear that this is a complicated issue. And so we have not introduced a bill yet. We're still working on that. And most recently, I've been working with the County Auditors Association. And so I know Representative Schmidt and I are both very passionate to make this happen. And it hasn't happened yet. And I think that I asked for a little bit of leniency on time because of all of the issues that are involved in this. And we haven't introduced it yet, but we are endeavoring to make that happen. And you know, it was a very disruptive event in our county. Mm-hmm. And especially in Southern Clermont County. And so many people that I talk to say that had they known what they know, had they known then what they know now, they probably wouldn't have voted yes. But be that as it may, it shouldn't be as lengthy, it shouldn't be as expensive, and it shouldn't be as lucrative for lawyers as it's turned out to be. And we just want to, in the end, I know Representative Schmidt and I want to bring a bill forward that would provide clarity and would provide information to voters before they vote yes or no.
One of the things that I might chime in, one of the stumbling blocks is the township versus municipality, in this case, village issue. Townships, by their very nature, are very cautious of villages, very cautious of municipalities because of the annexation issue. But here we have a situation where you're going to dissolve a small municipality, a village, and how do you do this fairly and appropriately? One of the challenges that the villages see is the amount of signatures that are needed to get the petition forward for the voters, and it's a very small amount. You look at Owensville, I think they only needed like 15 signatures to get it on the ballot. Mm-hmm. And if they lose the first time, it can continue the process. So do you put a stall mechanism in there that you can only do this so many times in a year or something? Those are some of the small issues that are delaying the larger issues of how do you fairly and appropriately and timely dissolve the municipality, the village, without giving so much money away to attorneys.
Excellent. Mark, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Representative Byrd and Representative Schmidt, both of you are co-sponsors of House Bill 290, which has been coined the backpack bill. Can you tell us more about that and why you support it?
Well, I'll go first on that. And, you know, this is a very difficult issue, and school funding is always going to be complicated. It's always going to be divisive at times. But, you know, what really turned me toward supporting this, despite my background in public education, was the many, many students across the state of Ohio over the last 2 years that were not permitted to go to school. And so when I saw many teachers, and especially urban teacher union settings, that asked to be put at the front of the vaccination line, they were moved to the front of the vaccination line with a promise that, you know, give us this vaccine, we'll go back to work. Well, they were moved to the front of the line and they did not go back to work. And kids suffered as a result. We're not permitted to go to school for a full year. The research is absolutely overwhelming that schools that is done remotely is not anywhere close. It's not half, it's not a quarter. It might be a tenth of as productive as being in session and being in person and having that teacher right there with you, you know, working together with your classmates, learning off of each other, project-based learning, creative learning opportunities. They're not going to happen remotely. And so we have an entire generation of students who have lost over a year of schooling. And when I saw that happen, and when I saw teachers that refused to go back to work, that's what ultimately led me to support this bill.
Thank you. I think for me, about 30 plus years ago, I worked, I taught in an inner city school, Withrow High School, and I saw the difference between education in an inner city and in a suburb. And so I supported allowing students in inner cities to get a voucher. But today, in addition to seeing schools being basically closed with the pandemic and using remote learning as a tool, knowing that it underperforms for students, I've also noticed an erosion of the values that our country holds dear. When you look at the way the schools are now using indoctrination as part of their educational process, not allowing a fair discourse of very sensitive issues, that makes parents that can't afford a private education held hostage to an environment that may conflict with their values. And so having the backpack bill allows those parents to seek out an educational center that fits their values as well as the educational needs of the child.
Excellent. This next question, we'll start with you, Senator Johnson, but I'd kind of like all three of you to kind of weigh in. So yesterday, Governor DeWine announced that he'd be giving his State of the State address on March 23rd there at the State House. What are you hoping to hear from him, Senator?
I tell you what, State of the State events are remarkable things. I sat through a lot of those over in the House of Representatives. I'm looking forward to this one as my first time as a senator. I missed the first one because I came in the second year, but looking forward to hearing what the governor has to say about our economy primarily. I want to hear how we're going to get opened up, back to business, and generate our own tax revenues rather than relying on the federal government to keep dumping huge amounts of money on this state and other states, fueling inflation across. Ohioans can do well when we're allowed to openly compete and do what we do best, which is business. Very, very happy to hear about the Intel chip plant. So along those lines, how Ohio can fight the battle against communist China and their frankly open bid to take over the world and have their currency be the top currency. I'm very concerned about the United States losing our predominant economic spot in the world. It's not just important because of our way of life, but how important is that? I mean, my goodness, that's so important. But it's also important for the world to have a freedom-loving country in charge of the world economy. So that battle is being fought. It's real. Communist China, it makes no excuses or qualms about what they're doing. They want to take over the world economy, and they're doing it. So bringing industry and plants like the Intel plant to Ohio is huge. I want to hear him talk about how we're going to move forward and restore our economy.
Okay, Representative Byrd.
Well, what I'd like to hear is that he is unapologetically going to defend freedom. And I'm not sure that that's how always happened in the past couple of years. And what I would like to hear is that we made a mistake over the past 2 years, shutting down businesses, shutting down restaurants, shutting down mom and pop shops, shutting down schools, that we made a mistake, and that knowing what we know now, we should not have put all of those things in place. And that's what I'd like to hear, that we need to open up this state for business. We need to open up these schools. We need to make sure that we are not masking children, and that we are full speed ahead as a state, and we are going to defend and protect the freedoms of Ohioans.
My turn.
Representative Schmidt.
Okay, first off, I would love for the governor to address the no pun intended, the elephant in the room, and that's the supply chain issue. I am thrilled that we're going to get Intel for a variety of reasons. Jobs that pay $100,000 plus a year will only boost the economy, not only in that region, but even in Clermont County, which will play a small but important role in creating those chips. But the supply chain issue has to do with transportation, and it is getting overhauled truckers the ability to move those products through Ohio. One of the things we did in the budget was look at how we can get people into the trucking industry, CDL licenses, et cetera, and ease that process. And I'd like to see more of that addressed. I would also like the employment issue addressed, and how do we incentivize people to go back to work? It is very difficult for small businesses, especially restaurants, dry cleaners, et cetera, to find people that are willing to work in their business. All too often they have to close early. I mean, a Skyline closes early, or a pizza parlor closes early because they just are understaffed. Much of that has to do with the federal government, but it also has to do with how we in Ohio incentivize. And finally, the final issue that I'd like to address is helping our seniors be able to afford to live in Ohio. We have to find some creative ways to have that happen.
Nice.
Our next question is again, for all three of you, but it looks like lawmakers will have about $2.7 billion in federal relief to allocate in 2022. And we were just wanting to get your ideas on where you think those funds should go.
Start with you, Representative Schmidt.
Well, it depends upon what strings are attached to that. Hopefully, with transportation, in addition to the Brent Spence Bridge, which I could give you hours of why we need to expand that bridge. It is a critical junction point for not just Ohio, but for the nation. It moves goods from Canada to Florida. It affects 68 congressional districts, 11 states. It is a big chunk of our GDP, but also issues like 275. State Route 32, those corridors where we need some federal help in relieving traffic issues with 32. It's basically getting onto 275 in a safe manner, but it's also on 275 on that choke point going over that bridge into Hamilton County, which continues to not just paralyze traffic, but cause accidents. And I think most of that dollars is going to be in that form of transportation issues. So I'd like those two things to be addressed.
Good. Representative Byrd.
Well, who's going to argue with infrastructure? That's I echo what Jean just said, and certainly that's very important. The other thing that we cannot lose sight of is the learning loss that has happened in our schools over the last 2 years. It is drastic, it is real, and it may be hard to overcome. We've had students who will have a hard time ever catching up to what we've lost. And so I would like to see a lot of those dollars go to extended school year, extended school day, especially for students who are the most needy, students who are on an IEP. And we need to make sure that that is being addressed. But the other thing that I would say, and needs to be said at some point, and again, we're serving here in Columbus, and but my goodness, we have got to stop spending. And we are causing massive inflation that is wrecking our economy. And so, sure, thank you for the dollars. We'll try to spend it wisely, but please stop spending.
Thank you. Representative Byrd, you had a hard stop at 11.
I do. Thank you for acknowledging that, and I apologize for leaving right now. But
we really appreciate you joining us.
All right. Take care.
Senator?
Yeah, so, Jean brought up a real important point there. What strings are attached? In other words, where can these funds go? What are they designated for? And, the federal government never just gives you anything and says, here's a nice gift, spend it wisely. They usually have an ulterior motivation for that. And then Representative Byrd brings up an excellent point about inflation. I mean, there are a lot of reasons for inflation right now, but the primary reason is basically the printing of money, unrestrained printing of money, throwing it out into the winds of the country, and it hurts every citizen, but particularly seniors because they're on fixed incomes, and it hurts the poor. You know, if you're looking to retire right now, you know, and you're planning on whatever your IRA says, you know, you have, and you've been looking at that for a long time, well, it's not worth as much as it was because of inflation. If you have bacon that costs $10 a pound, just go to the grocery store, you know, and it's amazing what's happened in a period of about 1 year. So it's good that that money is available. You know, we're going to do good things with it, but it's not real money that was generated in the real economy. So we're going to be very wise with it. The things that Gene and Adam were talking about with infrastructure, of course, you know, that we need to bring as much of that money to Southern Ohio as we possibly can. You know, and Clermont County will be a prime beneficiary because of all the business opportunities that are taking place and the ability to actually expand our economy. But there's another thing that, if at all possible, we can get our hands on some of the money for, and that's some of our social problems. I mentioned seniors who are being really hurt badly by all this, you know, because the people that typically work in nursing homes can make way more money now working at McDonald's than they can doing a very difficult job, very important job. And so we got huge staffing shortages that come out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then also the opioid epidemic. We're in the tertiary and quaternary social problems cascading out of the opioid epidemic now. We've got about 20 years worth of time for kids to grow up in drug environments, which has just exploded. And these kids have been neglected. They're not stepping up in the way that we expected kids to step up 30 years ago and be members of society. It's been a devastating impact. And you know, the young kids particularly, in Scioto County alone, they have 383 kids that are in protective services. 383 in a tiny county. That's a metropolitan level. It exceeds places like Cleveland, and it's just in Scioto County, and no way to pay for it. So they're doing it because kids are dying, kids are suffering. So we have huge problems like that we need to address also, or else we're not going to have a workforce that comes up in the next 10 or 15 years, and you know, a citizenry that is conversant with you know, the great ideals of our country. So we have a lot of issues, a lot of things to apply money toward, and just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that if we can direct some funds in that direction.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Representative Schmidt, this next question is for you. Last year saw a lot of debate in the House about vaccine mandates, employers' rights. I know a bill came out of the House. The House inevitably ended up passing a bill. I know there was a lot of talk about healthcare providers getting carve-outs of some of those. Where do you see that debate going this year? Do you think a bill will inevitably make it to the governor's desk? Where do you kind of see that going?
Well, I would certainly hope that it gets to the governor's desk. We did our part. Part of the issue is the federal government's mandate with healthcare workers, and I wish we could have carved them out because like our safety services, our police, and our fire, they are a critical part of that three-legged stool. And to require people to get a vaccine only weakens your workforce, your supply chain for workers. We will lose at least 10% of those workers, but any healthcare facility that has any Medicaid or Medicare dollars attached to it is now tethered to the federal government's mandate. My view is this: it is a person's right whether they should be vaccinated or not with this vaccine. I strongly suggest all of you read a book by Robert Kennedy. Yes, Bobby Kennedy's son, liberal as I am conservative, called The Truth About Fauci. It is a jaw-dropping book that highlights a man that throughout his career has used vaccines as experiments on people, especially people of color, people that are impoverished, towards ends that may not have brought the hope that he had wanted. It highlights the AIDS issue, and it is now highlighting, I'm almost finished with the book, this vaccine. We know that in the beginning, we were promised that if we took the shot, and by the way, I took the shot, we wouldn't get COVID. Well, we can get COVID. Now we know that this new variant, it doesn't apply to the shot. So now they want to have us give shots every 4 months. Think about who's making money with those shots for every 4 months. It's not you, it's not me, it's the pharmaceutical industry. And oh, by the way, who's paying for it? You and I, the taxpayers, which only is making inflation worse. Perhaps we need to look at this like we looked at smallpox 130 years ago, which transformed into smallpox. And during that time, a successful vaccine was in place that really stopped the onset of smallpox. Right now, we're in an experimental phase. We're only a year and 2 months into this, and we're all over the map on ineffective vaccines that don't work. So yes, I am for folks having the freedom to say no.
Senator Johnson, what do you think?
Well, we covered a lot of area there, you know, if you look at the way this pandemic was handled, never before in American history have we approached any disease in this way. And instead of the medical community stepping up and being the lead on this, it was actually the political community that stepped up and was the lead on this. It very, very quickly became a political thing. You could tell one's party, one's ideology by how people were responding to this. Governors across the country responded in unprecedented ways. Still in California, things are still very, very locked down and draconian compared to Ohio. Fortunately, Ohio didn't go that direction, but I would say that we had overreach here, even in Ohio, with a conservative governor and a Republican governor. How best to put this? Just look at natural immunity. We lost nurses all over America because they didn't recognize natural immunity. The people who were hailed as heroes, frontline, warriors against the pandemic, actually caught COVID. All kinds of people caught COVID, and they survived it, and they came back and went to work. And then we have a mandate that says all these healthcare workers have to have vaccines. Well, they've had the best vaccine you can have. They've had the disease. So suddenly natural immunity, acquired immunity by having a disease isn't good enough. And so we lost those nurses in droves, and all of a sudden they're not heroes anymore. They're, people who can spread. And then the idea of turning people against each other. Well, if you're not vaccinated, you're spreading. Well, people who are vaccinated can also spread the disease. So why in the world is our government involved in this? And I'm very disappointed in our medical community for not stepping up and taking control of it. When they did get involved, it was to jump on the federal bandwagon, and I'm very disappointed with that. And then the variety of masks that we were using when this all started, there were some very good studies before the pandemic that showed that masks are ineffective at stopping viral spread of respiratory diseases. Well-respected, peer-reviewed studies that are out there for anybody to find. And all of a sudden, you see people wearing gaiters, on airplanes. We see people wearing a cloth mask, and thinking that it's going to keep them from getting a disease. People who are at risk should have never put on a mask and thought that it was going to protect them. To have given them the idea that it would. How many people got sick because they thought that mask was going to protect them? The best thing a mask can do is keep you from spitting on each other. So the social distancing thing, which is the most unscientific thing we've ever rolled out as a public policy, 6 feet. Well, it's just a good number to guess, but it's not going to keep you from getting a virus. And then if you have a surgical masks aren't designed to stop respiratory transmission. It's to keep you from breathing down into a surgical field. It's not designed to keep you from getting anything. And yet you have to this day wear at least a surgical type mask or a good cloth mask to get on an airplane shoulder to shoulder with people and breathe the same air they're breathing. And if you look, people are just huffing and puffing their respiratory products out around this mask. It just makes no sense. And so, you know, to mandate that people have to do something that's political in nature, it's like nothing we've ever done before. And we've lost our common sense in this. And the next thing you know, we had people closing down non-essential businesses. The theater industry was just crushed, and people who owned theaters were crushed. People who had arcades during the first onset of COVID, you know, little kids can come in and use the arcade. Well, it turns out that those kids would have been least affected of all of us by that particular disease. You know, and herd immunity, which is real, and you want to achieve herd immunity, it became a dirty word in American politics because herd immunity would take us away from getting the vaccine or, you know, wearing the mask. It's just awful what happened. And you know, I've had one of my colleagues say, well, you know, virtually all the medical community disagrees with you. I said, it's not the first time. You know, I'm happy to stand up for things that make good common sense. And I was a family practitioner for 30 years, retired from a medical practice back in June. And all I ever wanted to do was take good care of patients and tell them the truth and let them make decisions. The only people that should have been telling people what to do medically were medical professionals, and they're accountable. So if they told people the wrong thing, then patients can come back to them and hold them accountable. You're not going to hold a governor accountable ever. They're not going to pay for any mistakes they made. You're not going to pay for senators, bureaucrats. You know, they're not going to pay for the mistakes they've made. They're not accountable to you except at the ballot box, and in the vast federal bureaucracy we have and state bureaucracy, those people are virtually unaccountable.
An excellent point. One quick follow-up. Do you think the Senate will take up the House passed bill, kind of banning employers from requiring vaccines?
That's a leadership decision. You know, I can't tell you which direction that's going to go, but I hope it does.
Yeah. Good. Mark?
Representative Schmidt, switching gears a little bit here on another bill that you co-sponsored, House Bill 376, the Ohio Personal Privacy Act. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and maybe where it's at in the process and why you support it?
Well, I support privacy at all levels, and it is still in committee. We haven't fully vetted it yet, and I hope it's something that I can support.
And just real quick follow up on that, I guess we've seen that issue was, you know, kind of started at the federal level, but it kind of ran out of gas, and now it's kind of gone to more at the state level. And is that kind of where the thinking was, that due to the inaction of the federal, that it needed to be some address of this at the state level?
Yes, in a short version, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We have two quick questions we'll try to run through so we can finish on time. We'll start with you on this one, Senator. I'm sure I know where you fall on this, but I wanted to ask, the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol recently obtained enough signatures from registered voters to advance its proposal to the legislature, who now has until late May to act. I know Senate President Huffman this week said that he has no appetite to bring up any legislation in the Senate. Do you agree with that? Are you kind of in favor of that? And then kind of where do you see that issue going as we head toward late May?
Well, you know, in Ohio, you can bring things to the ballot. And, you know, that's a good thing for citizens to have a voice. On the other hand, that's not always a very fair representation of what the people of a particular state like ours actually want. Well-funded organizations can bring things up that the common person would never think of. And then they can, promote them on TV and make them sound good, and you can get things done. So the ballot initiative process is wonderful. It gives citizens a voice, but it can also be hijacked and used by special interests. And sometimes we don't get the best result that we should. And talking about a process that doesn't really have accountability. If I bring something up as your senator and people say, well, that's the craziest thing in the world, and I persist at it, I can be voted out. But the ballot initiative process, if you make a mistake on that, it's pretty hard. You have another initiative to reverse it. It's not easy to do that, or some type of legislation. So, I'm a family practitioner who spent the last 9 years of my practice doing addiction medicine, and I have seen personally as a county coroner, in Scioto County for 8 years, the devastation that is wrought upon us by addiction, and alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, opioids, marijuana abuse, all the different things that people self-medicate with and try to get high. I have no appetite for that whatsoever. And so, like Andrew knows me, so he pretty much knows how my vote's going to be. So something simple like alcohol ice cream, and making it easier. Why do you need alcohol and ice cream? For goodness sakes, kids see that and it looks good, and so that's something they model. And when you have athletes and people like that, and people in popular culture, on social media, promoting getting high, recreationally using drugs, it is not good for America. It's not good for the state of Ohio, and it's not good for our youth. We need people to be, secure in their own physiology. If you're unhappy, you need to do something to get happy. And that doesn't include, lighting up a doobie. It doesn't include taking a Quaalude back in the 80s, and it doesn't include taking opioids for anything except severe, intractable pain for a temporary basis.
I would like to add to that. If you want to look at what abuse with whether it's marijuana or opioids or alcohol, but in the case of Portsmouth, opioids in particular, and what it'll do to an economy, just look at what's happened to Portsmouth, to Scioto County over the last 20 years. Scioto County is the center point in this side of the nation for opioid addiction, for the trafficking of narcotic or opioids, etc., tar, those things, and it's because of people that need to get something to relieve their anxiety. And so they go for an easy fix instead of going for a run or doing yoga, meditating, just taking a soft bat and throwing it against the wall. They use something easy like a joint, like a drink and then another drink, or like opioids to mask their pain. They try to self-medicate, and it really can ruin. Am I right, Senator Johnson, on your wonderful little town, and how it has really harmed the economy?
Yes, it's not just Portsmouth, it's all over the state of Ohio now.
So no, I'm against legalizing marijuana.
Okay. Then our last question, Mark.
Something we've seen a lot in the news has been this, the whole issue of redistricting and the redistricting maps, et cetera. And I just thought we'd close on an easy one here and see if you all had any thoughts on that process or any thoughts in general about the maps, et cetera.
Well, I'll jump in. I think that when the voters voted on this initiative, they thought that it would be an easy process, a fair process, and one that would work to benefit all. I haven't seen that yet. It has become as much of a political football as the past method of redrawing lines every 10 years. No matter what we do with the redistricting commission, and there's two different ways that we draw maps. For folks like Senator Johnson and myself, it is the redistricting commission. For folks like Congressman Wenstrup, it is us. No matter what we do, the Supreme Court has the opportunity to say no. And it has become a very huge political football. If you don't think who we put on the Supreme Court matters, just look at what's going on right now. We are supposed to have another map given to the Supreme Court on I think it's tomorrow. We've already turned in petitions that may or may not have the correct lines in them. We are set to have a May primary, which now again may not happen. The voters expect it. People that have initiatives of their own communities on the ballot, like a road levy or a fire levy or a school levy, that may be pushed back. That's critical to their economic development issues. This is crazy. If anybody thought that you could ever take politics out of drawing any line in Ohio.
Senator?
So, yeah, I generally try not to say a whole lot about this particular topic because I am not central to it. I pretty much get handed my map at the end of the day. But I will say that our caucus leadership here in the Senate, and I'm absolutely certain that the caucus leadership over in the House of Representatives that Gene belongs to has done its absolute best to ensure that we have a constitutional process and that it is indeed lawful and fair. And, I have no reason to doubt that our leadership has put every possible effort into doing that. And I absolutely hate it when the judiciary, steps in and fouls up that process. It's not their job. It's an overreach by another branch of our government. And it needs to be reined in and corrected.
Excellent. With that, we're about out of time. I will give each of you a few minutes if you have any closing remarks. We'll start with you, Representative Schmidt.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you, the Chamber, for giving us the opportunity to meet with you today virtually. I'd love for it to be in person at some point. I have been honored and privileged to represent the 65th House District. I think the most important thing that I can accomplish is meeting my constituents' needs, and we've addressed numerous needs locally, but also for businesses that have an issue. Those are the things that I have the most pride in accomplishing. My door is always open. My phone is always available. So please, if you have an issue, you have a concern, you just want to chat, please give me a call. I'm here to serve you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gene. Senator?
Well, thank you. Very happy to have this format and the forum, I should say, in this format. It enables a lot of people to come together around it. I'm not a Zoomer. I hate Zooming, but it's a useful tool. And so we were all able to get together today, and I appreciate that. So Tara and Zach and I stand ready to handle your constituent problems. It's what we primarily do in the legislature. When you have a problem with unemployment, taxes, anything to do with transportation, make your first call to us if it's a state issue. And we'll be happy to work our way through that with you. We're honored to do that. I look forward to the remainder of the year in this particular General Assembly. And hopefully we can polish off some of the important legislation that we have. And I really want to leave you with this. One of the things I'm going to be turning my attention to is the whole addiction treatment and recovery process, particularly where it impacts kids and seniors. Because those folks are just being mauled in this process, and it's an unseen thing that's going on, and I'm going to bring Senate attention to that in the spring.
Excellent. Well, I want to say on behalf of everyone here at the Chamber and on behalf of all of our members, thank you, Representative Byrd, who had to hop off early, Representative Schmidt, and Senator Johnson for joining us this morning. Thank you, Mark, for always co-hosting these. Always appreciate your insights. Terry and Jean, I mean, your commitment to public service in the Clermont County is truly inspiring, and it's exactly what we need in Columbus right now. So we certainly look forward to more events like this in the future. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.